right, let's talk Los Angeles Chargers. Look, obviously the Chargers have been in the news a lot so far, the early part of 2024, making a lot of perfect, outstanding moves. Of course, the hire of Jim Harbaugh is at the top of that list. And we're already starting to see the Jim Harbaugh effect seep into Los Angeles and change how things are done with the Chargers, I think, in the right direction. Let's get into the article, the report, and then we'll talk about it more on the other side. This is according to The Athletic. The biggest Chargers takeaway from Combine Week, the Jim Harbaugh experience is in full effect. He is very clearly influencing all facets of the organization, and that is exactly what the Chargers expected when they invested in him as their head coach. Harbaugh used the term low-hanging fruit several times when I sat down with him. He used it in reference to his initial conversation with players. He also used it in reference to the organization as a whole. His cultural philosophy revolves around a pretty simple premise. How do the Chargers get better at football? And at these early stages, he is focusing on the immediate apparent corrections. Remember, on the day before his introductory news conference on February 1st, Harbaugh was in Home Depot at 6 a.m. buying a shop vac. He took it to the Chargers' Orange County facility and vacuumed out the weight room. Little things, low-hanging fruit. Over time, those add up to what we all know as culture. All right, this is clearly not something you hear about all the time on ESPN, but it's these little moves that can make a big impact, reversing the damage done with the prior regime. Harbaugh, I think, is already off to a great start. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Charger fans, in the comment section below, look, we're not that far away from free agency. The draft's not too far along now either. We've seen a lot of moves, a lot of potential decisions being made by the Los Angeles Chargers. But in the comment section below, I want you to put one move, a surprising move you think the Chargers will make that no one is talking about. Maybe a surprising cut. Maybe you think they're going to make a big draft trade. Whatever it is, give us what you think, one surprising move that no one is talking about that you think the Chargers will make this offseason, and put it in the comment section below. But Miles, give me your thoughts on the Chargers and Harbaugh and just the full effect that he's bringing on this culture right now.
Yeah, Nick, I think you see these things, you hear about the little things that Harbaugh is doing, and you wonder how is that going to affect the team? And on surface level, it doesn't make sense and you don't feel like it's going to affect the team. But the fact is, the little things can really affect the Chargers because I think the general premise here is as a whole, the Chargers have a very good core of a team. They have a lot of great pieces. There's a lot of good things going for the Charger. It's just a few pieces of low-hanging fruit that you have to get out of the way, correct, to get this team going in the way that you want it to go. For instance, the whole shtick at the end of the article talking about buying the shop vac, cleaning up the weight room. I think that is a little bit overblown because the real key here was that Jim Harbaugh didn't like how things were going in the weight room. So what does he do? Brings in Ben Herbert from Michigan, a guy that he knows really does all of the little things right. He really takes a kin to looking at things like, hip flexor, ankle stabilizer, mobility drills, taking care of the joints. He does all of the little things that some strength and conditioning coaches might not look at. You think it was normal. A lot of people come in, they just want to go lift heavy, squat, do all kinds of crazy stuff. This is a guy who really takes player mobility, treats their body like a Ferrari. He takes it really seriously. Small change can make a big difference with injury concerns, which the Chargers have had a couple going down the stretch. Other small things, bringing in a new wide receiver coach. When you talk about Sanjay Law, small move, wide receiver coach, what is it going to do? It's a small move, but this is a guy who is key in the development of Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf really kind of worked with him the last few years when he was in Seattle, who is kind of similar to DK Metcalf on this Chargers roster. Quentin Johnston, a guy who came in, he's big, he's fast. They have a lot of the same measurables as a guy like DK Metcalf. This is a guy who knows how to work with that kind of player. Johnston came in, had a rough year his first year. I don't think he lived up to the expectations a lot of people had for him. Bring in a guy who can work with him, who's familiar with working with that kind of player. Small thing could make a big difference down the stretch if Johnston pans out and develops the way that we think they can. I think that Jim Harbaugh is coming in here and he's just fixing the little tweaks, something that a lot of Chargers coaches come in, a lot of coaches don't do. You remember John Gruden comes into the Raiders. He really kind of was oblivious to a lot of stuff he was doing. They lose Khalil Mack. They lose Amari Cooper. And then later on, he's like, oh, I wish we could have a nice pass rusher. That'd be important. Well, you did, but they ended up letting him go. Harbaugh's in here. He's in tune with the organization. He's really getting a feel for what's going on. So I think as we go on, the tough decisions to be made are with the free agents. When you look at Mac Bosa, when you look at Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Harbaugh's doing all the little things possible to soften the blow of potentially losing any of those players and trying to figure out what the best decision is going to be for this team. It's little stuff, but I think it's going to make a big difference for them down the stretch.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting element when you talk about the Chargers, and obviously they're going to lose some guys as get under the salary cap, some trades they're going to have to make. But the reality is, even with those subtractions, this Chargers team is incredibly talented. If you look at the overall structure of a football team and what you really want, you always say, okay, I want a franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert, check. I want a good tackle to protect that quarterback, Rashawn Slater, check. I want some pass rushers, right? They're going to probably move off of Bosa or Mac. They'll probably keep one of them, throw in Thule, right? There you go, 2 pass rushers, check. I want a good corner. I think they've got a couple good solid corners, right? I want a wide receiver, at least 1 or 2 wide receivers my quarterback has a good rapport with. They'll probably get rid of Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, so they'll have at least one of those guys still. And then, of course, if Quentin Johnson can develop, there's another one there. I want a GM with experience. I want a GM that understands how to win the National Football League. Ortiz is that guy coming from the Ravens, right? So again, no matter how you look at it, the Chargers, even with some subtractions, they check all the big things off to be a contender in the National Football League. I think it is the little things. And I'm reminded, and I kind of discounted it at the time, when Lions general manager Chris Spielman, he was reported, this was a couple years ago, he would go after practice, after mini camp and training camp, go on the practice field and pick up trash. Right, this is a general manager. This is a guy running the show, and he's walking around picking up trash he sees afterwards, going his way, making sure it's a clean work environment. Again, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have that top-down feedback throughout the culture that the standard is excellence, the standard is we are going to treat everything to the highest possible factor it can be, right? Whether it's cleanliness, efficiency, flexibility, mobility, all the way down to film review, film prep, practice, and of course, performance on Sundays. When you establish that standard in everything you do and you already have the talent, you maximize the talent. That's what the Lions did. One of the things, obviously, the Lions have a lot of good players, but one of the things that Dan Campbell did with his culture shift is he got everybody to play to their highest ability. Harbaugh is known for doing that. He did that at Stanford. He did that at San Francisco in the NFL. And of course, he did that at the University of Michigan. And these kind of moves, these kind of decisions, these strong starts, these are the things that do massive to the culture and bring everyone's talent level up to the maximum ability that they have. I think the Chargers, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's these little cultural things that we're missing under Staley, that we're missing under Telesco, that will pay big dividends now in the future. I think you'll see young players like Johnston step up. I think you'll see veteran players like Slater and Herbert play the best ball of their careers. I think the Chargers, a lot of people are sleeping on them a little bit because they're going to have to lose some veterans. I think they're going to be better than a lot of people think. I don't know if they're Super Bowl ready yet, but to me, the way things are trending, I feel like this is a contending team, probably for a wild card. I'm looking at 9, 10, 11 wins for the Chargers. But regardless, the direction that Harbaugh has them in already is outstanding. I love what he's doing so soon with the Los Angeles Chargers.